What's up everyone, welcome back to Studio 13 where we are making nightmares real. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, almost a year, but hey, it was still going, and I hope that all of you enjoy this one, as this is my first time where I have actually written, narrated, and edited my own horror narration. And with that being said, if you're into all things horror, the mysterious, paranormal, supernatural, unexplainable, dark, and cryptic, feel free to go down below and drop a like, and if you want, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss a single time when I drop new content. And we're still going to be doing the ghost hunting and things, still going to be doing reactions. This is just another level into my good variety of horror content, and I hope all of you come along for the ride. So, let's get into it.
It was about 2:50 a.m. on a warm Thursday morning in June. I was driving along a desolate highway with my driver window down, enjoying some of the calming morning air. It read a comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit on my car's dashboard. It was a clear sky tonight. I was on my way home from a business trip. I had a small nap before embarking on my journey back home. As I continued along the highway, I saw flashing caution lights. And then as I slowed to a stop, I saw one of those light-up signs on a trailer reading sinkhole. Please take detour to the right. I sighed as I slouched in my seat due to this adding time to my journey. I then sat back up in my seat and made a right just like the sign said. After I made the turn, I looked in my mirrors and noticed that, shockingly, the flashing caution lights had vanished all of a sudden. Strange, I thought as I continued driving. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a huge mist of fog. Driving through the fog only lasted for a few seconds. All of a sudden, it got wicked cold, and the thermostat on my car's dashboard read a frigid temperature of 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What the hell? I thought. It's the middle of June. I then came upon a sign that read, Last Sight, Population 100,000. Strange, it isn't showing on my GPS. As I entered the town, the clock on my dash read 3:10 a.m. It seemed like the average town at first. A few convenience stores off to the sides of the road, a couple of fast food joints, as well as your local Family Dollar, and as I continued, I began passing some bigger stores. All of a sudden, the GPS on my phone went out. Great, I thought. Now how will I find my way out of this town? I then started to come across some mom and pop stores, one of which was an antique shop. Thankfully, they happened to have a sign which read, Vintage when it coats on sale. Ironic, I thought. Suddenly, I happened to notice a bunch of silhouettes moving around. I just brushed it off as my mind playing tricks on me due to a combination of being a little tired and how cold it was outside. I then proceeded into the antique shop, and to my surprise, no one was inside. I then picked up a coat and headed to the register to check out. I saw a dark figure vanish abruptly into a closet. I had turned around for a second and saw some more shadowy figures walking around. By the time I had turned back around, the money I had set on the counter for the coat had been taken, and the change sitting there. Weird, I thought. I didn't even hear anyone come up, let alone a cash register going off. As I exited the antique shop, I noticed something odd. There were a bunch of shadowy figures moving up and down each sidewalk. I then checked my watch. 3:20 a.m. it read. Something suddenly began to feel odd. As my body got comfortable from the coat I had just purchased, and my mind slowly started getting taken off the bizarre frigid temperatures, everything suddenly hit me all at one time. Why in the hell is an antique store open at 3 in the morning? All of a sudden, when I came back to reality, all of the silhouettes I saw had stopped. What I saw, though, sent shivers down my spine. All of a sudden, these silhouettes had white glowing eyes. They weren't silhouettes. I realized that these were shadow people. All of the shadow people had suddenly turned in my direction, and I could feel their gazes staring directly into my soul. Out of nowhere, I forced myself to snap out of my trance-like state. I quickly got into my car and started the engine. As I sped away, I began to head into a suburban area. As I drove a little ways in, my car abruptly shut off on its own and just stopped without warning. As I began to look around, my heart stopped. In this neighborhood, there were also shadow children playing outside as well. I slowly crept from my car as I was going to try to make a run for it. But to my horror, as soon as I closed my driver door, every shadow figure was glaring at me. The shadow children had stopped their games. The tallest shadows were sitting motionless. Then all of a sudden, every street light and every light in every house started to rapidly flicker on and off at the same time. I started to run as fast as I possibly could. I then started to hear a lot of disembodied whispering. As I began to look behind me, to my horror, every flicker of the lights around the area, it seemed as though the figures were slowly beginning to creep up on me. I was forced to a stop when these things were suddenly surrounding me completely. "What do you want with me?" I shouted. They began to speak. What they said made me freeze up. "We want you to join us and be one with the shadow people." They began to grab me, and I kicked and punched as hard as I could, cursing furiously at these shadow people. I don't know how, but I managed to break free from their grasp. I took off running as fast as I could right through them. I could feel their white, glowing eyes gazing upon me as I ran. I then collapsed onto the ground as one of them had managed to grab my ankles and drag me back. "We don't want you to leave, friend. Please be our guest for eternity." I managed to kick myself free again, and I got up and continued running. As I rounded the corner, I saw something shocking. My car! It was my car, and it was running. I saw a family of shadow people getting out, and as soon as the last figure had gotten out, I managed to snatch the key from the figure that had been driving. My car roared to life. I then slammed my accelerator to the floor as I squealed tires to get away. As I sped down the road filled with absolute fear, I could just see more and more of these shadow people pouring from the houses into the street. I started to hear more of their disembodied whispers. These whispers started to turn into the most god-awful and eerie screeches and laughs. My radio suddenly cut on, and they were controlling my radio. "We see you," they said. "There's no escaping the shadow people," they said. I slammed my gas to the floor. I quickly gained speed. Does this town ever end? I thought. I kept driving as fast as I could. I suddenly drove through another mist of fog. I was forced to then slow drastically and turn on my fog lights. I could see that the shadow people were still around, and as the fog seemed to slowly fade away, I began sweating really badly, as if it had gotten wicked hot all of a sudden. I then checked the temperature on my car's dash, which had been reading at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature had managed to shoot all the way back up to 72 degrees Fahrenheit in just a matter of minutes. I then remembered the thick coat I was wearing. However, I refused to stop until I got home, so I managed to slip the coat off while driving. I was soaked in sweat. I finally made it home, and the clock on my dashboard read 7:45 a.m. I had the following 2 days off, thankfully. I was exhausted from my experience. I went straight to bed and woke up 11 hours later. I tried doing some research on what I had experienced. Unfortunately, there was no trace of any town called Last Sight. There were also no missing person reports. I know one thing. I will never take another detour again.